Good evening. I would like to call December 5th, 2023 Planning Commission meeting to order. Please note this meeting is being hosted through live stream on the city website and by teleconference via Zoom. I would like to remind the planning commissioners to have their microphones turned on in positions that the audience can hear. Director Anise Flechter, may we have roll call, please?
Commissioner Clark. Present. Commissioner Ochoa.
Here.
Commissioner Hill.
Here.
Vice Chair Papp.
Here.
Chair Beamsterper.
Here. Vice Chair, can we do invocation and flag salutes, Pap?
Heavenly Father, thank you for the opportunity for us to come together as community leaders this evening to weigh the merits of projects before us that will have lasting implications on the city of Hemet. I pray that you guide us through the testimony we are about to hear. Cause us to ask any meaningful questions of staff and the applicants, and give us the knowledge and wisdom to make the best decisions for the betterment of our city. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
Amen.
Please place your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Agenda item number 4, the public comment period for items not on the agenda. Are there any members of the public present that would like to comment on an item not on the agenda?
I don't show anyone online requesting to speak, and I did not receive any e-comments.
And nobody online. All right. And now on to number 5. Agenda item 5 is the approval of the minutes of the meeting from October 3rd, 2023. Does the commission have any comments or corrections? And did you review them? Because I know you weren't here during those meetings, but did you read over the minutes?
Yeah, I did.
I ask for a motion.
Yes. I make a motion to approve the minutes of the Planning Commission meeting of October 3rd, 2023.
I second it.
Okay, that passed 5-0. Agenda item 5B is the approval of the minutes from the meeting of November 27, 2023. Does the commission have any comments or corrections? And ask for a motion if not.
No, I did review those, and I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the Planning Commission meeting of November 27, 2023.
I'll second it.
And that passed 5-0. Item 6, conditional use permit 23-004 for Beyond the Lock Key Escape Rooms. Senior planner, VRL.
Good evening, Chairman Beams. I apologize. Beam Def Fair
Beams to refer.
and members of the Plan Commission. The item before you tonight is for a conditional use permit 23-004.
Excuse me. Can I get your name, please?
Sure, Agustin Villarreal.
Augustine,
Yes, sir.
last name?
Villarreal. Villearal.
Thank you, sir.
Again, the item before you tonight is for a conditional use permit 23-004. In this, the proposed project will be located within the Meridian Commercial Center, which is located right on the corner of Meridian Avenue and Florida Avenue. This proposed project will be located on the northeast wing of the shopping center, and it will occupy the vacant suite that is approximately 1,309 square feet. As you can see, it has been highlighted on the shopping center. And it has a, planned use of, guys, commercial, general commercial. And it's on, this, and it's on as general commercial as well. The proposed project will be a new type of indoor entertainment in which a number of people, for a maximum of 8, will be entering a series of rooms in which they will conduct or work together to solve a number of puzzles in which they will use logic, and it will be in a time frame in which they'll be able to move forward into the next event. As stated, the event or the business hours are indicated to be 3 to 9 p.m. Monday to Thursday, which will be or would have minimum impact with those businesses that exist in the shopping center. And it will be operating from 9 to 9 p.m. on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, which again will have minimum impact with those existing businesses at the shopping center. This is a specific location within the Meridian Shopping Center. Currently, the property or the street is vacant. This is the floor plan existing, just a shell. There's nothing there other than the unit and a bathroom on the back. And they will be providing or proposing 6 different scenarios, 6 different rooms in which they'll be going from one to another as they progress through their scenarios. Again, they were specifically focusing on the hours of operation so they wouldn't have an impact with existing businesses. We did get a call from one of the business owners within the shopping center. However, they did not specify their name or their business, but they were concerned just because of the name. It said escape room, and they were a little concerned. They're saying, well, what are they going to do? Are they going to be, I don't understand. And we had an opportunity to let them know about the new indoor recreational facilities, which are actually becoming very popular within the adjacent cities. One of our concern was obviously the number of people that will be attending this indoor recreational facility, but they will be also providing the means of ingress and egress to this facility. I would like to specify that none of the rooms will ever be locked, okay? They will be open at all times, and they're gonna have a supervisor or an attendant there during all business hours. See, 1 second. With that said, we are, based on the findings, we're recommending approval for the conditional use permit 2003-04, Beyond the Lock escape room. And the applicant is here as well if you have any questions.
Thank you for the presentation. Does the commission have any questions for staff? Commissioner Clark?
Is this going to be family friendly? What are the age limits? We know?
Is the applicant available to speak on behalf of the commissioner's question?
Can you please state your name, please?
My name is Jennifer Hernandez, and I am the proposed business owner of
Sorry,
Beyond.
sorry, I have to open public hearing since we're. Okay, I'm sorry, go ahead.
My name is Jennifer Hernandez, and I am hopefully the owner of Beyond the Lock escape rooms. And the answer to your question is that it will be from 6 and up. My goal is to make sure that every single room is family friendly. I have run into a problem with my son that a lot of them are not. And so my entire mission is to ensure that they are all family friendly. They'll still be geared for adults to enjoy, but they will be acceptable for children ages 6 and over.
And I did do a little bit of research around the area and even LA. Do you have plans to have another scenario somewhere here in the city?
So currently my goal is to have multiple rooms in this location, and then it'll just kind of depend on whether or not there's enough call for it, enough business.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the applicant? Vice Chair Pat?
I'm just curious, reading through the staff report, I believe I read that there'd be, starting off initially, you'd have 2 employees on site. But you have how many rooms proposed? Is it 8?
So it was a little confusing how it was presented. There's actually, my intention is to have 3 scenarios, but each scenario will have a couple of different rooms. And then there's also a control room and a storage room. So it looks like there's 8 rooms, but there's 3 total scenarios. Initially, it's going to be myself staffing and hosting, and then as soon as I get up and running and have enough customers to warrant it, then I will be bringing in more. The way it will work is that there will be 1 employee per scenario. So there's always somebody monitoring each game, and then likely an additional person to be a host at the front and possibly a manager.
And how many games do you envision being able to run simultaneously?
In that space, 3.
Other questions?
Yes,
Commissioner Hill?
I have questions for Mr. Villarreal. Has the fire department looked at this and made approval? And my concern is, what is the total occupancy of the building? I understand it's a maximum of 8 people per room. Can you give me the rundown on that?
Not yet, not yet. And it was part of the conditions of approval that they submit plans to for compliance with the building department as well with the fire. So they were waiting for the approval from Planning Commission to submit the plans for review and approval.
So we're just approving the CEQA today? Is that the idea? The COP on CEQA?
Asking about if we're going to approve the CEQA aspect of it.
Is this, the COP is on CEQA, is that correct?
Yes, so the action tonight would be that the planning commission adopt the resolution presented to you, including the CEQA exemption. So it'd be to approve the project and to direct staff to file an exemption with the County of Riverside.
Is this coming back to the planning commission at any time, or is it moving forward?
This would be a final determination, a final action by the planning commission.
Okay, I'm a little disappointed that we're not getting the report from the fire department or the police department on this.
Yes, so we do have what's referred to as a development review committee,
Yep.
and we route to the different various departments every project that comes through the city, and we request that they provide input. So in moving forward, I can advise that we need to have more input from the building department. Typically, the building department has standard conditions of approval that it comply with the building code, the California Building Code, and it has to meet the minimum occupancy requirements. Once this is approved, it goes through the building plan check process through the city, through the tenant improvement process. So the fire department and the building department will be looking at it thoroughly for occupancy and fire department California code requirements.
So is there there's a front door, is there another exit other than the front door?
No,
Front door is this single exit of the building.
that is correct.
That seems to be an issue with me.
There's no back door to the shopping center? I thought there were back doors.
Based on the plans presented, there is no there's no egress to the rear of the building. And I would refer that to the applicant if they can confirm that based on the existing conditions of the site, if there's an exit door at the rear.
None of the suites in that shopping center have rear exits. All of them go straight. It butts up against a wall. So all of the exits are just through the front. It's only a 1,200 square foot space. And the fire department was actually present during the DRC, and they actually addressed the maximum occupancy. And we discussed how many people that I would have, and they said that it was well underneath the limits of what would be required for that space.
Okay. I'm a little disappointed that wasn't included in the staff report.
Noted, and we'll make sure that we include occupancy in further applications.
My concern is that there are rooms, there's these 8 rooms, they're locked in there. If something happens, if there's an emergency, the only exit is the front door. I know that maybe all of those buildings in that row may not have a back door, but I'm not sure that everybody's closed up like you are going to be in that building. So that's my concern.
So basically imagine that you're in a doctor's office that has doctor suites. That's none of the rooms that I'm building are going to have locks that you cannot exit from. It wouldn't be any different than going into a dentist office where you're going into a smaller room to have your checkup and then you come back out. Everything will be able to be opened by the participant, whether there's any kind of power outage, it does not matter. They will be able to exit the same as they would be out of a doctor's office or a dentist office or any other business that has smaller rooms inside of it. Each room is only going to, between 2 rooms, there's only going to be 6 people. So it's actually less people in a space than you would typically have just in a regular office building. And there will always be a means of egress. I already have plans to change out the current door, which is a regular locking door, to make sure that there's a panic bar. All of the locks will be locks that do not have to have anything where you have to turn it or have any kind of emergency override from anybody else. It's at any given moment, no matter whether anybody's paying attention or not, you can always exit without any outside assistance. That's already part of the plans.
All right. So if I'm participating in this game
Yes.
and I'm in this room, am I locked in that room or am I not locked in that room?
No. So you will never, ever be locked into a room. There may be empty rooms that are locked that you have to figure out how to get into, but once you are into them, you are not locked in that room.
Okay.
So it would be like going to a gas station bathroom where you can't get into the bathroom without a key, but once you're inside the bathroom, you can always get out.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that.
Question for the applicant.
No, for staff.
We're going to close the public hearing for the applicant unless anybody has any questions for the applicant.
Mhm.
Close the public hearing and then we're back to the staff.
Mr. Villarreal, if you wouldn't mind going over once again why this particular use requires a conditional use permit?
Under section, and I could quote it. Give me 1 second. Yes, section 9-893D3A specifies that indoor recreational activities requires a conditional use permit.
That's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other questions for staff?
No.
Thank you very much. And with that, we're going to open public hearing again, or just move past that since we closed it? Okay. May I ask for a motion?
Sure. I'll make a motion to adopt the Planning Commission Resolution Attachment Number 1, approving condition use permit CUP 23-004, Exhibit 1A, subject to the conditions of approval, Exhibit 1B, and 2, direct staff to file a notice of exemption with Riverside County.
I'll second that.
And that passed 5-0. I'm excited about it. 'Cause I know about the escape rooms. I know it's a new trend and it's a kind of a puzzle, mystery solving thing for children and family. And I think it's a great addition for the city. So
Yep.
congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. Hernandez. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun.
All right, and now we're moving on to item 6B for tenant parcel map number 38,529. Associate Planner Soledad.
Good evening, Chair, Commissioners, and staff. I'm going to be presenting I'm sorry, my name is Soledad Carasoza, and I will be presenting map 22-005, which has tentative parcel map 38529, which is the number of the map. The owner is Rancho Diamante Investments. The applicant is Rancho Diamante Investments, and Mr. Eric Flodin is the applicant. The location is approximately 1,300 feet north of Simpson Road and east of California Avenue. The APNs are listed here, and it's approximately 30 acres. What is being proposed is a 30-acre site is being split into two parcels. Parcel 1 is approximately 13 acres, and parcel 2 approximately 17 acres. And there is no development being proposed with this parcel map. Here we have an aerial view indicating the location of the parcel map. And this is Simpson Road here. Let's see. Sorry, this isn't showing up where I'm aiming it. Simpson Road to the south and Warren Road to the east. The line you see here down the center is the aqueduct. That's San Diego Canal. And here is a general plan designation indicating that this is low density residential. The zoning map shows that it's zone residential, but a specific plan is required for development for the site. And here we have the proposed map 38529, which takes the entire rectangle here, and it's going to be split into two. Parcel 2 is indicated there, and parcel 1. There was a lot line adjustment that needed to take place on the north east corner of the property, as that corner was in the county, so that lot line aligned with California Avenue. Down the center is the aqueduct, and we see that it has its own parcel number. Additional information regarding this property, it's a legal lot. It consisted of 5 acres, 5 assessor parcels. The applicant is splitting it into 2. And here we have where the APN on the upper left corner was in Riverside County's jurisdiction, and a lot line adjustment was filed with Riverside County, so it would be part of the parcel that was to the north of it. And that's just shown here on the upper left corner. The San Diego Canal right now is 175 feet wide, and it shall remain that width. So this parcel map is not affecting the canal at all. Easements are typically no build, and it does have several easements on site. And once a track map is proposed, conditions of approval shall address utility easements and the right-of-way. The findings primarily had to do with the specific plan, with densities, with development. So many of these findings, it actually said that they did not apply because this is just a lot split. Development didn't apply, and neither did conformance with the other tract map findings. I won't take the time to read them all, but they were in your staff report. The general plan designation is low-density residential. And there's no proposed change to the general plan. The zoning is a specific plan required, and there is no development proposed with this map. This project is exempt from CEQA under section 15315, class 15, a minor land division. Class 15 consists of the division of property in urbanized areas, zones for residential, commercial, or industrial uses into 4 or fewer parcels. It is respectfully requested that the Planning Commission adopt the resolution to approve tentative tract map 38529 for the division of 1 legal lot into 2 parcels to facilitate the sale of the property based on the findings and exhibits and subject to the conditions of approval, and direct staff to file a notice of exemption with the county clerk. This concludes my presentation, and the applicant is also here to answer any questions you may have directed to him as well.
Thank you, Zoldan. Does the commission have any questions for the staff at this time?
I do.
Oh.
Ms. Carrizosa, how are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Good. Okay, so let's go to the lot line adjustment.
Okay. We have the presentation up, please. Okay.
So that parcel encroaches, it goes over into County of Riverside.
No,
So explain
well-
that to me.
Yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
So my question has been, were we going to annex that from the County of Riverside to do that full rectangle square? Or are we adjusting the lot size? And is that what you mean by the lot line adjustment?
Yes, exactly. So currently, the boundaries, it's rectangular. A piece of that land encroaches into the county. This is a cleanup that lot line adjustment will be brought to our property, our city boundary. The applicant will also be required to work with the county. They also are the jurisdiction that also has to approve so this is a parcel map, lot split to subdivide and create 2 lots. A
Yes.
condition of this lot split is that a lot line adjustment be approved and recorded with the county as well to incorporate that portion of the lot that's not in the city limits. So this will clean up. So the new property boundary will be to the center line of California, and the other side will then be adjusted to be in the county of Riverside as their property.
Okay, you can see my concern. Someone builds houses across that whole line and homeowner has a problem, and it's not the city of Hemet, it's the county of Riverside. Everybody's pointing fingers at each other. Well, it's not my fault. It's the county's fault or it's the city's fault. So,
Right, and that's understandable. It's a good concern to have. Right now, the lot split is not for the development of the property. That will have to come back in addition to environmental review, a thorough review by city engineer to ensure that, any easements are not encumbered. And it would have to come back, it will have to come back to the Planning Commission and possibly the City Council for any future development of this property.
is there a possibility that we would even think about annexing that from the county to make it simple?
It is certainly within our sphere of influence, so it may happen, but it would be a process that we would have, an extensive process
Mhm.
to annex that piece into the city.
Okay, all right. All right, appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.
I have questions. The easements. What in the parcel one and what in parcel two are actually the acreage of buildable property. So you have your easements here. And I know for a fact you can't build. So what is the percentage of parcel one and parcel two that easements eat up?
Correct. And that's that's also a great planning commission question. That is an analysis that we would include in any future development that moved forward. We would do an analysis of the net lot area minus any easements. Also the, the water district and anything in the aqueduct, we would deduct any of the easements in there, any right-of-way. In addition, there may be additional right-of-way that we are not even aware of today that will require further access to the property. So without having the future development plan by the developer, we wouldn't know today, but we could certainly identify if necessary and annotate in the parcel map the actual acreage of the easements.
I guess I have a question on why we split it down the middle of the easements and we didn't make it simpler. I mean, because it just, the potential for us to be able to really put any low density homes on there on these sizes seemed to me kind of iffy.
Yes, and we can certainly look into that. When the public hearing is open, we could also ask the applicant just to clarify the purpose of this parcel map and why they're even pursuing it at this time.
Good, Vice Chair.
Regarding the requirement for a future specific plan, is there anything in the municipal code? I'm sorry, I didn't research this myself, or I wouldn't ask. Is there a minimum acreage requirement for a new specific plan? I noticed that these parcels are relatively small for a specific plan. Might there be a requirement to consolidate lots?
The applicant has ownership to a lot more property around that site. The only reason why this is being brought is for the lot split. That does not indicate that the specific plan would only be those parcels. There's many other parcels that they have in ownership.
Thank you.
Understand Sequoia is exempt from this, from the statement, but I know right in that area, there's vernal pools and there's also other issues that prevents development. Are we aware of anything that's going to create even more of a hunch for this particular plot? Is there any vernal pools there or anything that's going to create a hunch for the developer or is anybody that wants to come in?
Because this is just a parcel map and we're just splitting. And there is a CEQA exemption for just this type of parcel map. A environmental impact report was not required. Once a tract map or development is proposed, then it will go into the CEQA requirements, which would involve initial study and an environmental impact report.
In addition to a biological assessment of the property.
Any other questions for staff before we open a public hearing?
Hey, Solana, I just wanted to clarify that this meeting today, for right now, for this decision that we're making, it's just to allow the split of this parcel, correct?
Correct.
Yep. No more questions.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And with that, we're going to go ahead and open up public hearing. Are there any members of the public present online that would like to comment on this item?
I don't show anyone online requesting to speak, and I did not receive any e-comments.
What about the applicant? Did the applicant like to say anything? Or did I close public hearing? No, we don't have anybody right now. We'll close public hearing. And any questions for the applicant before we make a motion?
Well, I think my question still rises, what was the logic of
Splitting it.
splitting that down in half? Is it so that both sections really have issues with the easements and not just one parcel? I mean, or is it just because we have to do it at 15?
Can we have the applicant come to the microphone? Can you please state your name?
Good evening, Chair, fellow planning commissioners. I'm happy to answer any questions you have this evening. Before I answer your particular question, let me just start by saying this is a really.
Can you give us your name, sir?
Oh, yes. My name is Eric Flodine. I'm with Rancho Diamante Investments. We are the property owner. We've owned this property for 20 years, as well as all the surrounding property. So this has become a cleanup. It's really a mapping cleanup that we're going through right now. It may be helpful to bring up an exhibit. I'm a planner, so I like maps. But if you want to bring up an exhibit, I could speak to the planning commissioner's question. But verbally, the existing San Diego Canal that runs north south, the above grade canal there. It had to go in one or the other of the parcels. So the actual parcel line is on the canal is in entirely within one of the parcels, right? So that's in parcel 1. So parcel 2 does not include the San Diego Canal. So parcel 1 includes all of the canal. And I'm talking about the above ground canal. So the one that goes north-south. There's another subterranean aqueduct that goes more in a diagonal condition that also ends up being within all of parcel 1 as well. So just to clarify for the planning commissioner's question, the parcel line, the split, so the lot split, the new parcel line, the new parcel boundary is on the east side of the aqueduct or the San Diego Canal. So it's not split down the middle.
So would you say that this parcel split is, I guess, in alignment with the adjacent lots that you have?
Yes. So what's become so just a little more background, if you'd like. We own all of the property on the west side of the aqueduct. We also own all the property on the east side of the aqueduct. About a year ago, we had interest in a purchase of all the property between the aqueduct and California Avenue. And we realized through title search at the time, a year ago,
Mhm.
a title search, that it's actually one legal lot, even though there's 5 separate assessor parcel numbers. Oh, and by the way, the MWD owns through grant deed. They actually own the north-south aqueduct, but it's an ownership on top of a legal lot.
Yep.
We still, one legal lot. So at the time, we couldn't even sell the other side. We couldn't sell the west side of the aqueduct at the time because it was literally linked to property on the east side of the aqueduct. So a
Okay.
year ago, when that came to light, we said, let's get this cleaned up. So
Yep.
I just want to let you know why we're going through this process at all in the first
Yeah.
place.
Okay, makes sense to me.
Any other questions for the applicant? No? All right. Thank you very much, Eric.
Thank you for your time.
And with that, I would like to ask the commission to ask for a motion.
I'll make a motion to adopt Planning Commission Resolution Attachment Number 1, approving tentative parcel map number 38529 and map 22-005, Exhibit 1A, subject to conditions of approval, Exhibit 1B, and 2, direct staff to file a notice of exemption with Riverside County.
I'll second. And that motion passes. We're moving on to item 6C, conditional use permit 22-002 and variance 23-003 for Newland Kirby project. Director Alanis Flechter.
Evening, Chair Beamsterfer, members of the Planning Commission and the community. I'm Monique Elanese Flater, Community Development Director, and this evening to present to you is the conditional use permit 22-002 and variance 23-003. The project is in alignment with our strategic plan integration of economic opportunity to ensure that Hemet is a hub with access to jobs, shopping options, and varied and sustained tax base. The applicant is Newland Capital Group, and the property owner is Hemet Kirby LLC. The property is located west side of Kirby Street and south of Acacia Avenue on approximately 43.56 gross acres. This evening, the Planning Commission authority is to review a conditional use permit for a warehouse and fulfillment center pursuant to Municipal Code, Hemet Municipal Code Section 90-1043. Warehouses and product fulfillment centers greater than 400,000 square feet are permitted use, subject to conditional use permit, and including subject to findings outlined in Section 90-42.5 of the Hemet Municipal Code. The commission is responsible to review the conditional use permit in accordance with this section. In addition, the project before you also includes a variance to allow modification to development standards of the zone in which the property is located in instances where the strict application or literal application of the zoning code would be impractical or difficult, an unnecessary hardship, inconsistent with the objectives of the Hemet Municipal Code and Zoning Code. It's subject to findings outlined in 90-44.5 and will be further discussed in this presentation. The vacant property is located one parcel south of the southwest corner of Kirby Street and Acacia, north of the Burlington Northern Santa Fe rail right-of-way and Salt Creek Channel. Surrounding land uses include vacant land to the north, RV recreational vehicle storage, and single-family homes to the south, single-family homes to the east, and vacant land to the west. The property maintains a general plan land use designation of business park, which is a designation that provides for single and multi-tenant light industrial, flex office, and office uses. Suitable uses include corporate and general business offices, medical uses, research and development, e-commerce, and light manufacturing. Ancillary support commercial uses include restaurants and hospitality as well to serve the business community. That those uses are also permitted. The existing zoning on the property is business park and is reserved to appropriately locate on single and multi-tenant light industrial flex office and office uses that include corporate, general business offices, medical, research development, e-commerce, and new technology. Here's a site plan of the property. The applicant's requesting approval to construct a single-story, 850,640 square foot warehouse and distribution building of approximately 55 feet in height, including office space, loading docks, and associated vehicle and truck trailer parking areas. The single tenant warehouse includes 19,292 square feet of office space on the 43.56 gross acre site. The overall improvements include landscaping, site security fencing, walls, sidewalks, utility connections, implementation of stormwater facilities, pavement parking, and right-of-way improvements in driveways. Truck access would be served from Sanderson Avenue. Vehicular access for employees in general office uses would be served from Kirby Street, which is a 4-lane undivided secondary collector. The applicant is required to dedicate 47 feet of the right-of-way along the project frontage of Kirby. Truck loading docks would be located along the east and west sides of the building. The building would include 132 dock doors and 4 grade level doors. The proposed project would also provide 163 trailer parking stalls located along the east and west boundaries of the project site. The general office and employee parking includes 955 vehicle parking spaces, including ADA accessible and EV ready stations, which will be located along the north and south sides of the proposed warehouse. The proposed project also includes landscaping, a total of 199,495 square feet of ornamental landscaping that will cover 11% of the site, including various trees and shrubs. Many of the trees are 24-inch box in size, which is a more of a mature tree for installation. The proposed landscaping extends around the perimeter of the project site and in between the parking areas. Sliding gates are also proposed at the south entrance of the internal truck courts. Site walls and fencing are included to include wrought iron fencing and concrete block. The truck courts would also be gated from Kirby Street and future the Whittier Avenue. Illustrated here are some of the vegetation and the proposed trees, which include the golden rain tree, the Brisbane box, and the western redbud, which are proposed as part of the overall design development. The architecture of the building includes a concrete block material, scored wall patterns, recessed horizontal paneling, and interplay of accent colors that provide visual interest to the building. The exterior colors are in a mix of white, modern lavender, and grays, as well as brushed carbon storefronts in Arcadia storefront mullions clear and storefront windows in vitro solar gray and solar band. So here is just some of the architectural elevations as viewed from the east and west, just to give you a little perspective due to the scale of the building, the overall. Here is a floor plan of the building. And then also, before I go into the variance proposal, I would like to talk a little bit about the operational characteristics of the project. The operational characteristics include employee shifts and estimate number of employees per shift. Try to locate that. Looks like that slide went missing. So, so the hours of operation is a 24-hour 7 days per week, overall, development. The operational characteristics are broken up into 2 shifts. There would be, shift 1 would be 6 a.m. to 3:30 p.m., approximately 350 employees. Shift 2 would be 4:30 to 2:30 a.m., with approximately 100 to 200 employees. The truck delivery hours, primarily are within the hours of, 7:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. Truck loading and unloading would be on the 75% of the loading is on the west side of the development from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. and 25% 7 p.m. to 12 a.m. With east doors for outbound loading and unloading. The request also includes a wall, a totaling 14 feet along Kirby Street. The applicant is requesting a variance from the standard regulation of 8 feet for security fencing. And the purpose of the reason for the variance is is twofold. The property is located approximately 100 to 165 feet from single-family neighborhoods along the east and southeast of Kirby Street. The noise vibration report prepared by the applicant's consultant and reviewed by our city's consultant identified the potential noise and vibration impacts and as part of reduction measures associated with the warehouse development. In this case, the proposed 14-foot height would provide noise reduction to measures to comply with our noise standards. And in addition, the wall has been included in the design of the project to provide screening of loading and truck bay areas. This would provide a substantial buffer between the proposed facility. So this is an existing illustration of the wall without any landscaping, just for the commission's reference. However, the landscaping would be planted, and this is the elevation as viewed from Kirby Street. This is also additional perspective and view from Kirby Street with the landscape screening in looking at the overall separation and screening from the residential areas to the east of the development. As part of the development environmental process, the project includes an addendum to the City of Hemet General Plan, final environmental impact report, previously certified by the city and serves as the environmental review for the proposed project. As part of that, there are mitigation measures that are included in the overall conditions of approval, including biological resources, cultural, geologic, air quality, noise, greenhouse gas, hydrology, and water-related conditions of approval. The pursuant to CEQA section 15162, none of the conditions of the review would trigger the need to prepare a supplemental environmental impact report. In accordance with 15162 and 15164, the addendum documented that the development of the site is consistent with the approved uses in the City of Hemet General Plan and zoning designations and within the assumptions that were evaluated in the final EIR. On November 22nd, 2023, the city gave a notice in the press enterprise and by mailing to property owners within 500 feet of the subject property of the holding of the public hearing. To date, staff received correspondence from Debbie Chamber. Debbie Chamber provided comments back in March when the when the development was moving forward through a portion of the site was involved with the general plan amendment. One of her questions was whether or not they could build 2 to 3 additional blocks on top of their walls that are located to the south of this property. She did contact staff today just to reconfirm that is what she is asking for. She indicated that she would not be able to be in attendance at this meeting this evening, but wanted to be assured that that it would be entered into the record of her request for additional wall height for any for view preservation of the site. With that, this concludes my presentation. The applicant is also here this evening on behalf of the owner, as well as our CEQA consulting firm. Staff is recommending approval of the development subject to the conditions of approval, as well as requesting that the commission direct staff to file a notice of determination with the with Riverside County. This concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Director Monique. I'm sure we have questions. Commissioner, do you have questions for staff before we open up the public hearing?
I do.
Commissioner.
Director Monique, how are you?
Thank you.
In the report, there's a traffic impact analysis, and there's also a recommendation that goes along with it, and specifically about a traffic signal at the intersection of either Olympia Avenue and Sanderson Avenue or Whittier Avenue and Sanderson Avenue. Has that been resolved?
We have incorporated a recommended condition of approval. The applicant is here this evening and may want to speak additionally to that, as well as the property owner who owns the portion of land that would be required. We have crafted the condition of approval to be flexible to allow the applicant to work with the property owner to the east to ensure that off-site improvements are constructed and that truck access will be provided from Sanderson Avenue. And to date, the applicant is aware of this condition. The property owner to the west is also aware of this condition. There is a condition of approval that would require a signal to be constructed. It would be preferred that the construction of that signal be along a new Whittier Avenue street alignment. The applicant is aware of that, as well as the property owner to the west. There is existing right-of-way now on Olympia Way, so that is an opportunity in should the development or the property owner to the west choose not to pursue any future development on that property. There's existing city right-of-way. However, there is an existing general plan Whittier Avenue Street identified in our general plan, which is the preferred alignment, and in which the applicant has designed and has the option at this time. The applicant may be here tonight to discuss that further, but also the purpose of that condition also was based off the concerns that were identified in the staff report regarding the volumes of traffic on Sanderson.
Correct. So would this come back to us as an infrastructure item?
As incorporated into the conditions of approval, this would go through the city engineers department and be reviewed through that division through the civil improvement plan process for the infrastructure that would be continued. So the condition of approval would be that they would provide the right-of-way requirement. So that is incorporated into this. There is a plan already pre-designed here that gives them options, but is consistent with what the city's recommendation is in terms of the infrastructure that's planned.
Okay. Whittier Avenue that goes from Sanderson, I guess, to the warehouse. Is that a new road or is that existing road?
That is the planned collector road that's identified in our general plan. And so that would be required to be built with this project. That is the preferred. However, there needs to be dedication approved by the property owner that currently owns that property. So they would abandon Olympia Way, and then the Whittier Avenue would be dedicated and constructed by the applicant to include their roadway improvements and drainage improvements. So that's part of this development, yes.
Okay, but that's not been resolved either.
That is something that is been worked out through with the property owners.
Oh.
And that is why the condition is crafted in this way. We have been working with both property owners. We believe there is resolution, but would like to hear from the applicant this evening.
Okay, well, good. All right, maybe we can hear from the applicant then. And when we get to the wall height and where the residences are, I'm a little confused on if you could go back to, I guess, the architectural view of the building in the parking lot and where the houses are located. Where are the truck docks in reference to the homes? I guess that's key for me.
Okay. Okay, so in this illustration on the site plan, just to the west of Kirby, you'll see the parkway landscaping, and the scale of this drawing is, imagine it's a 43 acre site. So just behind the landscaping, the right of way, and the landscape buffer required along the street frontage would be the 14-foot wall. Just behind the 14-foot wall are the truck bays, so they would be completely screened from the street view.
Okay, so this is Kirby. Are the houses over here?
Yes, that's correct.
The docks are here?
Yes.
They're here?
Those are the trailer parking stalls.
These are the trailer.
Those are the trailer parking stalls, and the dock doors are along the building, along the building wall.
And the wall is,
Yes, it'll be on the property.
so you got landscaping in the wall
Mhm.
that is the sound buffer.
The wall is the sound buffer. The landscaping further accentuates and reduces the appearance of mass. It adds a nice landscape visual and provides that separation, visual separation and noise separation from residential neighborhoods to the east and a little bit to the southwest.
Okay. And I did hear you say that you notified the public.
Yes, that is correct. The property owners within 500 feet of the subject property were notified of the public hearing.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Monique.
Thank you.
Commissioner Cho, in regards to the wall, the 14-foot wall is being proposed on Kirby. A wall being proposed on the south side or along the railroad track.
There is no wall being proposed at this time. It's going to be a parking lot area with heavy landscaping along that southern border of the property.
I have a question. This landscaping and wall will be maintained by the tenant?
Yes, so there's a landscape maintenance agreement that would have to be for the public right of way. In addition to maintenance by the property owner is required the property owner is required to maintain the landscaping along the frontage.
Okay, so in my experience with these walls and landscaping, and particularly over on that side of Hemet, you have a lot of graffiti problem and homeless So is that going to be monitored? Are we going to go and check this? How are we going to keep it look like it is today?
Yes, that is correct. So we do have a condition of approval incorporated into this, that the owner, operator shall remove or remove paint over any graffiti within 48 hours of the graffiti being painted or marked upon the premises. And prior to the issuance of the building permit, they would sign a waiver for graffiti removal, for access waiver for the city in the event the city would have to remedy the graffiti. It would be the owner's responsibility to remedy any graffiti if that occurred.
And so they will then reimburse the city if we have to come in and fix it?
Yes, so that's a good question. So they would have to come in, and quite honestly, I don't know what the requirements are. It becomes a code enforcement
Right.
case, and in many cases, it's either there is a code enforcement violation fee for that if it's not remedied within a specific period of time.
Well, I guess my experience with graffiti and a wall that I look at quite regularly, it's constant. And whether it's taken care of right away or, you know, that city has to come in and clean it, it's a never ending. And so I'm concerned that if we have a never ending cycle there, that it just will be like, ah, heck, we'll get it next time. And, you know, those homeowners along that back area deserve to look at something nice. And I'm pro-business, but I'm also pro-property owner, and I would like them to make sure or have some assurances that it'll be kept up.
Commissioner Vice Chair Pap, any certain questions?
Yes, I have some questions. Thank you. My notes are kind of all over the place, so I apologize. I might take some of these out of order. For starters, has the project been reviewed by the Riverside County Airport Land Use Commission? Has the city received a letter of consistency, or is there a public hearing scheduled before them? I understand that this could be up to 55 feet in height.
Yes, that's a great question. So as part of the process for Airport Land Use Commission, based on the actual project itself, the conditional use permit, Airport Land Use Commission did determine that staff, because it's consistent with the Airport Land Use, the Hemet Ryan Airport Land Use Plan, that city staff could evaluate and prepare the airport land use review. The FAA has also reviewed the development and has confirmed that that no hazards there's no concern based on the maximum height of 55 feet. We've also received FAA clearance as well as Airport Land Use Commission's determination that because there is no legislative decision made as part of this effort, that city staff can prepare the analysis for the project.
Okay, thank you for that. I don't believe the staff report stated what the proposed use might be. You might not be aware yet of what the proposed use might be, but has cold storage been considered as a potential use for this facility? And if so, was that analyzed in the greenhouse gas emissions report?
I am not aware of cold storage being included in this. The applicant is here tonight, and they also have, if the commission would accept a brief presentation that will provide even more information about who the tenant will be.
With respect to the Whittier Avenue alignment and the future construction of that, what triggers the actual construction of that road? Is that placed as a condition of approval? And if so, who is responsible ultimately for constructing that roadway?
So condition number 72, in evaluating the overall analysis, when we identified for Environmental Quality Act, CEQA, the vehicle miles traveled, The project did not meet the thresholds of significance. However, looking at our levels of service along Sanderson Avenue and the capacity and the level of service that we're experiencing on Sanderson Avenue, it was determined that there was a concern that there would be the need ultimately for the installation of a signal. I'd like to read into the record the condition as it reads now, that the applicant would design and construct a traffic signal at the intersection of either Olympia or Sanderson at Whittier. So it would be Whittier Avenue. This shall include standard city improvements for the intersection, included but not limited to ADA ramps, curb gutter, sidewalk, street lights, and design shall be improved by the city engineer. Since the signal will be a benefit to the surrounding property owners, all property improvements shall be designed and constructed at the applicant developer's sole expense, but shall be subject to the terms and conditions of any credit reimbursement agreement approved by the city council. Alternatively, the applicant can submit a gap analysis that is reviewed by our city engineer, demonstrating that the interruption of continuous traffic on Sanderson will not pose a conflict. But to answer your question, it would be constructed by the applicant. This is the triggering project that would require the those offsite improvements.
Thank you. With respect to the wall, the 14-foot high wall, I understand the need for it. I understand the need for screening. I understand the need for sound attenuation. My experience dealing with projects like this is that a 14-foot high wall is very effective for screening. It's effective for keeping sound from escaping the project site. So as the trucks are moving around on site, it's less likely that those properties across the street are going to hear that noise. However, with a 14-foot high wall, you can have a lot of sounds reverberating off that wall and echoing off that wall and continuing on a trajectory towards those residences, which could very well exacerbate the problem of existing traffic noise. So I'm wondering if that's been taken into consideration with regard to the construction of the wall, and what kinds of materials and what other types of sound attenuation or sound reduction technologies might be included in that wall to lower the ambient sounds of the traffic noise.
That's a great question. I would like to defer that to our applicant and their acoustic engineer.
Okay, thank you. Then with respect to many of the conditions of approval that you mentioned, in your presentation, you talked about conditions of approval for biological resources, cultural resources, geological resources, air quality, noise, and a few others that I wasn't able to write down because I'm a little slow writer. Are any of these recommended as mitigation measures in any of the technical studies that were submitted, or are these requested by staff as conditions of approval?
Yes, so the technical studies were prepared. The addendum to the actual document that reference that incorporates this into the environmental study that is referred to by all the technical studies that have been incorporated to this. So those studies were prepared to ensure that the project is in compliance with those requirements in terms of the noise, biological. And so based off of those analysis, those were evaluated in the environmental and have been incorporated as mitigation measures for this project.
Okay, that's kind of where I'm going with this. I'm not 100% comfortable with using an addendum for the environmental document for this. If the city is proposing to present new mitigation measures for this project, when you add mitigation measures to an existing environmental document, it's no longer really qualifies as an addendum. You're introducing new information that needs to be evaluated, and I would suggest that perhaps some other form of environmental documentation, perhaps a tiered EIR off of the original EIR, or a program EIR, or something more specific related to those mitigation measures. Because I believe if the city were to approve a project with an addendum and incorporating new information, then you're very well open for challenge here. It's my understanding from my years of experience working on environmental documents that an addendum is really more of a clarifying document, that perhaps some information that is not truly bringing forth new information, but clarifying old information, that is acceptable. But once we start talking about new mitigations, we're in new territory. I would like to perhaps ask the city attorney to weigh in on that.
That is the planning commission's discretion, if that's something that they want to do. Monique, maybe that could be a clarification.
Yeah, so we, this, addendum, was prepared, and also peer reviewed by our CEQA consulting firm, who's also here this evening. I would recommend that we open the public hearing if desired by the planning commission to further discuss the CEQA analysis portion. I think we could answer the questions that are being posed.
Great, thank you very much.
Just a couple of questions here, and it might be more for the applicant, but the biggest concern for me is circulation and the use of the roads. And in part of the writing, from my understanding, is that the applicant wants to use Kirby for all access until the Whittier Road is developed. And my question is the Whittier Road going to be developed by the time the construction is developed, or is the construction going to be developed and at some point they're going to work on Whittier and have, as they say, 1,800 cars coming in and out on Kirby every day? Because I don't see anything on the map reference to Kirby as what the city's going to do. We have that island. They have that entrance right past that island, which there's no way people can come northbound and make a left on that with that island. So I just think the circulation for that first driveway is going to be a huge mess. And I look at Lion Street with the school district, and we have buses going on there, and that little stretch from Acacia to the entrance of the school district, that road is torn up. And that's because of the buses and all the weight. And so my big concern is with Kirby, if they're just gonna build the development and then build Whittier Road afterwards, it's going to put a lot of damage and a lot of traffic on Kirby. Also, they also want to use as a temporary exit route for the trucks. They want to go down to Florida and make a left, which there's no left green light. It's just a yield green light, which we know only one truck will get through that. And it's just going to create a massive traffic jam for anybody that's trying to get in and out of Kirby. And so possibly maybe use Acacia or develop Whittier before the construction's done so that they can use Whittier as proposed. Do we know what they're going to be doing with Kirby and what the city's going to work with them on that Kirby Avenue in that section right there?
Yes, so to answer your question, so this was proposed by the applicant for interim access off Kirby Street. However, staff was not in support of that. And will require that Whittier Avenue be constructed as part of this project, or access from Sanderson be incorporated into the construction of this development without further delaying of the development. And so the applicant is aware of that. This is staff's recommendation. We were concerned with any impacts to Kirby Street. The access for Kirby Street would only be for general employees, so that Kirby Street would be utilized for employee access to the parking areas.
Right, but they want to use their semi trucks until
They will not.
it's finished.
They did request that. Staff is not in support of that.
And we can say, as a commission, say no, that we prefer Whittier Road to be completed before construction is done.
That is correct.
And the other thing is the construction time, 6 a.m. I mean, it's surrounded by residential, so I don't know if 6 a.m. would be, I don't know, the rest of them starts at 7. Most people are up, kind of getting up by 7, but I think 6 o'clock is still a little early on a weekday with surrounding residential. That's just an opinion of mine. I think it should start at least around 7, like the rest of the week and weekends that they do. Let me see, there's one other one I had. win. Yeah, I think that's pretty, I mean, it's a great job maker. I mean, it's a great thing. It's just circulation, our infrastructure, it's just, we gotta fix that. So, but I don't have any other questions, so thank you.
I actually have, now that you brought that up. Do you know where these trucks are going to come from? Is it Dominigoni? Is it, where are we gonna feed them through?
Yes, so the traffic impact analysis, identified with the applicant who's here this evening could, provide a description of what the intended route is. From what I understand, based on my review of the analysis, is that that the truck, is northbound to Florida Avenue, northbound on Sanderson Avenue, and westbound on Florida Avenue, and then dispersed from there. However, I would, seek clarification too, that the applicant is in agreement with that statement.
Any other questions for staff before we open up the public hearing? Okay, and with that, we're gonna go ahead and open up the public hearing. If we can ask for the applicant to come to the microphone and state your name, please.
Thank you, Chairperson and Commission. Jeremy Kraut, EPD Solutions. I'm actually the applicant's representative. But as you heard from Monique, the owner applicant is here in the audience today. We also have a number of other people here to assist in any questions that might be more detailed than I can handle. I have the civil engineer, architect, we have traffic engineer, CEQA team as well, including the city's CEQA personnel or staff member as well to address your question, Mr. Papp and Commissioner Papp. So I will I'll start. I do have a brief presentation. Is that okay if I?
Can you give us, I'm sorry, can you give us your name, sir?
Oh yeah, it was Jeremy Kraut.
Okay.
Thank you. So I'll go through this presentation. Monique did a great job with her overview, and it looked great to see all the detail in there and have her present. So I do appreciate that. So first, I want to thank Monique and her time. You have a small but mighty staff here. You have a lot of projects and things going on in the city, and it's appreciative to have people like her on the staff to help projects move through the process. So, of course, I want to welcome the new Public Works Assistant Director, Jolene, who's in the audience, and she's been great. She's been starting recently and jumping into the fray, the detail a lot, because it's a lot to catch up on. So again, thank you for letting us present before you tonight and considering the project. Really excited to be here. It's been over 2 years just of processing with the city to go through a lot of detail. It is a big project for the city. It's an important one. And as you heard from Monique, it is a spurring project to encourage coordination, collaboration with property owners nearby to fulfill some of the major city improvements that are required and have been on the books for a long time, Whittier being one of them. So that's a really important element to what projects like these do in cities. So appreciative for that and for considering this. So Newland Capital Group is the applicant, who, again, Ty Newland is here this evening to speak to you as well. Some important things just to give a quick background, and he can give more if you'd like that, like some additional detail. But they really look for sustainability and long-term ownership. They don't build these and sell. They intend to build these for ownership and being a part of the community for the long term. So because of that, they really consider and think about materials, build quality, landscaping, how maintenance will occur for long term to make sure it's not an eyesore in the 10 years down the road. It's going to be a part of your community for the long term with a good appearance for that. And they really, because of this long term ownership and intention, they really want to become a part of the community. They've contacted and been a part of some of the community groups in the city to help give back and make sure that there is awareness of projects like these coming in and ultimately tenants that will be, again, also part of your community. There will be a tenant in here. We'll get to that as well. I know that was a question by the commission. As far as the existing site, Monique did a great job of the overview. It's great that we have the consistent general plan and zoning to allow this to proceed. And I think with that, it allows for a project like this to move forward. There's been a couple different development attempts on the site. None of them move forward, despite, ups and downs in the economy. And so this one, we rode up a very strong economy. We're getting into a little bit of a shaky one at this stage, but the only reason I'll say this project is moving forward is there is a tenant ready to go, wanting to move in. A project like this without that would not move forward. Period. We work on projects across the Inland Empire and coastal counties up and down the state as well. In this current environment with the economic situation, we're seeing it across the board. Without somebody there to fill the building, we're seeing nothing happen. And so this is going to be a different situation and very unique for the city. So to the tenant, the tenant is Always Pacific. They're a global end-to-end distribution company. The warehouse, which would not include cold storage, so no cold storage is planned. I appreciate the question, Commissioner Papp. That is an important one that we consider in CEQA very closely. And they provide apparel needs for large names that you see on the screen there that you're probably very familiar with. And importantly, in order to fulfill those needs, we need jobs, or the tenant will need jobs, or employees to fill the jobs. And those employees, the reason they've looked at Hemet is they see a labor force that has not been as tapped as utilized as many other areas throughout the Inland Empire. So the Meade Valley area on north into San Bernardino. You've heard a lot about these projects that are going on there, which is pulling from the labor force and leaving not a very competitive environment and fewer people that they can hire, or they hire from down in this area, which people have to then commute to those further away areas. In this case, they want to move to the labor source which they feel is strong. Again, another reason why they wouldn't come down here without that opportunity. And they see that as a very strong potential to fill their workforce, which, as you can see with 550 permanent jobs, is a big number. It's not a small number, and it's really important, and these are well-paying jobs. Also, during the holidays, as it mentions, they do have to bulk up for the holidays to fulfill the order needs that occur at that time. So we talked about the size of the building, and the square footage of the office is important. That's actually a large office space, getting close to 20,000 for a building of this size. It's larger because they plan to bring their administrative staff to this location and fulfill a lot of the administrative functions that are required for the facility and the logistics and just the operations of it. So you will have higher paying people fulfilling these administrative jobs, helping the company perform their needs. So that's just something to note and consider as you consider this project. So as far as the design of the building and the site, we knew where we were as we looked at the site and the design that was being performed on that through a lot of due diligence and review of the design, where it's located. We recognized the residential to the east. We recognized Kirby as not a truck oriented street. We recognized it very quickly. And that's why we engaged with the city to talk through that. We also recognized to the west, there's undeveloped land, and there are a couple property owners that we had to speak with in order to get access through that. So what you brought up, Chairperson, about the access, that is something we've been working through for 2 years, trying to understand what could occur there. Fortunately, we have one of the representatives of the neighboring property owner here in the audience today to convey, and hopefully I think he will confirm things that I'm going to be saying this evening as well. So that's been a very strong work in progress. So all of those have been really factored into the design. But speaking first to the residences to the east, that was a real critical issue for us to make sure that we didn't cause impacts and have concerns that would be created by the development of this project to those residents. We did do outreach to the residents. We walked the streets through there and knocked on doors to notify them of the project. We sent flyers out to the residents to speak with them and to let them know this is occurring and what the plan is for the site, to get feedback as well. And largely we heard no concerns because of the things that we have done before you this evening. And so to that end, the 26-foot landscaping setback on Kirby, with the landscaping being a significant presence, more so than what is typical, to really address the graffiti issue. We want to make sure that we're not creating a blank palette for a artist to do, and I say that tongue in cheek, of course, to do their work. We want to have protection against that to prevent the landscape, prevent people to from getting to the wall to do their work. So that there's a series of landscaping at the low level and then climbing up to the trees that are planned there. In addition to that, you do have street trees that are required there as well. So I guess to speak to the concern about reverberation on that area, that's an important element of reducing reverberation, is to have a significant landscape presence in areas that absorb sound and reduces the amount of reverberation occurring. The wall will also have a stucco finish to also absorb, so it's not just a hard rock face that would cause a little bit more reverberation. Nevertheless, just to speak to that specific issue, that was analyzed in the noise study as part of the environmental document. And then in addition to that, just a couple other points here. It's not clear on this, but from the Kirby grade, meaning the elevation of Kirby Street to the property, there is going to be about a 5-foot drop in the property after grading occurs. So there'll be a drop in the property, which increases the amount of distance from the floor where the trucks are located, from the ground elevation of the trucks to Kirby. And then there's the 14-foot wall on top of that. So you do have additional buffering that's occurring, not just from what would be the berm that's created from that drop, but you also have the wall in addition to that. So again, those are additional measures to help with the noise. And further, it helps with screening. So views in you wouldn't see the amount of the activity that would occur from Kirby. And I'll speak to actually Debbie, who wrote in the note to Monique, and Monique spoke to her. I've been talking to her along the way. I spoke to her today as well. I'm not sure about timing exactly, but I did speak to her about her comment, and we've been chatting about that south end. I'll address that in a later slide. Oh, well, here it is. So in the top, or on the left side, you see a box that's kind of showing the highlight of the area that we've analyzed. Her home is one of those homes along that south end in that box. There is a storage area that's in that triangle there, and then there are homes behind that as well. We didn't analyze that area because that isn't an active area for residences. But within that boxed area, we looked at the cross section there, and that cross section is on the bottom. And then the corner, just to show kind of the landscaping on that edge, and the aerial, which it's oriented in different ways, but you can see the parking on the top image. That parking is parking right there. So we have a cross section that goes across just to see the distance. And so you have parking, landscaping, the channel, some additional land area with the channel as well, with a slope up to the wall, and then the residence itself. So that's that cross section. And from the parking area to the residence's wall, such as Debbie's wall, is about 240 feet. And so when we were talking, what her concerns we heard was about her view of cars parking in that area and lights shining in, and just that experience of kind of an open space area turning into parking. So what we did is we added additional landscaping along that south edge to ensure that she would not have that experience, which is similar to Kirby in terms of trying to multi-layered effect of having ground cover, shrubbery, and trees to have a multi-layer, again, effect of reducing visual concern or impacts from residents along that edge. Now, I'll say most of the homes along that edge are facing our neighbor's property. And so obviously they will have to work with the neighbors there as well in a similar fashion. So relative to the existing condition, so this plan that we show here, that's the Sanderson Ranch specific plan that was approved at our neighboring site. I may come back to this just to address some of the comments about Olympia and Whittier, but this is just the existing condition on the top image versus the simulated condition in the bottom image as well. And that's just looking on Kirby. So in terms of community benefits, want to just mention a couple of these. The site improvements, really there are a lot of them, but specific only to Sanderson, or to Whittier and a number of the street frontages. We're going to be constructing, again, either Olympia or Whittier. The most latest development, as you've heard from Monique, is that we're really trying to push for Whittier. because that's the ultimate plan for that area. We're undergrounding power lines along the frontage. We're adding new sidewalks and streetlights, and landscaping as well as street trees. And that's a major amount of site improvements. Development fees of approximately 1.5 million, of which about $1 million go to the city, 664,000 go to the school district. And then as far as jobs are concerned, that there's 600 temporary construction jobs, temporary being for about 2 years of construction or sorry, did not mean to click that. So the construction is going to be, it's going to be a fair amount of jobs that are going to be out there in the near term. And then again, we have some additional holiday jobs. Now, just this alone is not speaking to the amount of investment that's relative to the project. Typically, these buildings cost about $110 or so a square foot times 850,000. So we're looking at $85+ million that are going into this, going to the 100 millions of improvements that are going into this site and the investment into the community. But relative to economic impact, so we work with a firm that does economic analyses for projects like these, and this addresses the recurring, meaning yearly ongoing economic impacts that will occur because of the project, and then one-time construction impacts, meaning those jobs that are out on the site doing work and what are they doing to the community. So just on the one time on that right-hand side with the people out there, again, what we're factoring in is labor incomes, the people being paid, other value that's being generated. So people going out and shopping and having lunch and shopping in your community, and the economic reverberation that occurs, and other expenditures that are needed to fulfill the construction of the project. In total, that's about 119 million, which is that's including indirect and direct impacts. So that's during the construction period. And then for the recurring, that's again, the people that are working in the community. So that's the salaries of those 550 people plus the 200 during holiday, where they shop, how they again, really become a part of your community if they're not already here, but the business does. And in total, that's about 95 million of recurring economic impact to the community as the project proceeds and is occupied. I mentioned the community engagement, so we sent a flyer out there, and we met with the community members. So I won't go into that further since I addressed that before. Traffic-wise, this is the screen that shows the breakdown of traffic. It does come from Florida, and it's going Sanderson to Florida. This is showing the Whittier connection, but again, I'll speak to the Olympia in a moment. Just to, as I close out, I'll address a couple of questions that came up and that particular point, because that's a little bit more detailed. And so with that, that's the conclusion of this presentation, but I'll just address again back to the Whittier and Olympia, just to, if you don't mind, I'll close on that and those questions that you asked. So again, we have the street that has acreage in the middle of those blue buildings. That's Olympia. That was dedicated to the city as part of the Sanderson Ranch specific plan. That is owned by the city today. Obviously, there's nothing out there if you drive there, but it is a paper street, if you want to call it that. And in order for project to move forward, we have to design a storm drain system that will connect to Sanderson. In order to get our grading permit, we have to have an area to locate that storm drain. So that's a condition of approval, so that we can't pull a grading permit unless we have that storm drain system in a location along that one of those two streets. So we have been working with the neighbor very closely to identify how that will occur. They have committed to dedicating land along their north property boundary, so the top of that white north of those buildings, where Whittier would be developed, and in that area we could build the storm drain. If that did not occur, if we found out that's not possible for whatever reason, they bow out, that's not going to happen, we would use Olympia because that's an existing right-of-way, and we wouldn't have to wrestle or try to get a right-of-way that we don't own at this time. So we have two options. That's what's built into your conditions, but the city has the assurance that there's nothing going to be happening out there unless that's solved for. Similarly, for the road, for the actual construction of the road, that is built into the condition that a C of O, a certificate of occupancy, cannot be issued unless the road, some form of road is developed, whether that's again Olympia or Whittier. And the reason again for the option is if for some reason the property owner next door says, we're done, we're not doing anything more, we have to have another option to get access to Sanderson. So that's again built into your condition. It's a hard line. We don't have a variance in that. There is one minor change I'm going to ask for that I'll speak to in a moment, but the importance of that is that we're trying to, we do not, as staff said, they don't want impacts to Kirby. So we have to find the truck access to get to Sanderson. So that's been accounted for in the conditions. And we've worked that with the neighboring property owner as well. They've committed to dedicating enough land along that north boundary to accommodate for the road to be built and then fulfilled. So that's Whittier. And before I get to the condition revision that I'm going to request, I think there was a question about security and the graffiti. Just one more comment that Commissioner, you asked for, and that there is going to be security on site 24/7. So that will help certainly in reducing the potential for graffiti and break-ins or other things that are happening in that area. However, as we heard from about the conditions, there's graffiti maintenance required and painting to reduce that possibility. They are required to actually clean that up if that occurs. Landscaping also reduces that possibility. So let me just go through a couple of my notes. If there's anything more, I don't think so, but I'd happy to answer more. But so just the last thing on the condition, and I worked with Jillian on this, so I'm hoping I'm going to convey this correctly, and she may come up to correct me if I am, if I'm not right at this. So condition number 72, which we spoke about earlier, that's again the condition that speaks to the Whittier and Olympia requirements. So under 72B, Romanet I, or Romanet 1, I should say, that condition, it speaks to developing Olympia at a certain width and improvements. What I'd like to make sure is it also accounts for Whittier in case, as we found out. So this was drafted to kind of focus on Olympia because at the time we were working through this, we didn't have as much traction with the neighboring property owner to convey or confirm conveyance. So we're focusing on Olympia. Since then, we've confirmed conveyance of the right-of-way needed on that north edge. So what I'd like to just add into that section is a recognition that this is speaking to Olympia, and we would just mimic it for Whittier. So Whittier, something to the effect of, so the current one says Olympia, and we would just add the Whittier Avenue section shall be constructed as 44 feet from curb to curb. Improvements within Whittier shall include asphalt, et cetera. So it's very similar to your condition that is currently worded. Now it would just add the Whittier possibility because from what we can tell at this stage, that's a highly likely track that we end up going. A lot of talking on my part. I will stop now, and thank you for listening to me very closely. And I know that was a lot to cover, so happy to answer questions, or I might defer it to some of the team that's here. Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation and answering some questions. Commissioners, do you have any questions for the applicant?
No, but I'd like to say, thank you very much for bringing this opportunity to the city of Hemet. This is really, really an exciting project. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Questions? Just one, just clarification that Whittier will be built out before certificate occupancy, correct?
Yeah, it's either Olympia or Whittier, and so the way things are going today, it sounds very likely it'll be Whittier, and everybody hopes that. Just to one last thing, I'm sorry to keep speaking, but I'll just one last thing. Because of this project, we're looking at the entire area from Acacia to Kirby to Sanderson down to the railroad tracks. And so the city also required, where Whittier connects to the western property boundary of our site, the city has required a road that goes along our western boundary to go north to the northern property that fronts Acacia. The intention of that is to, again, for trucks to be away from Acacia and Kirby, which there's residences along that stretch. So this project will fulfill that there will provide dedication and improvements along our western boundary to pull trucks if that project to the north of us builds in an industrial fashion, or we'll have trucks, whatever it may be, there'll be a secondary access and it'll be focused for trucks. So again, another benefit of this project will provide for this kind of block of the city. But specifically to answer your question, yes, it would be constructed and completed by SEBA.
And on your construction, when you're doing grading, are all the dirt trucks and construction coming out on Kirby? And I guess that's the only route they can take, but is there weight limits to Kirby when it comes to trucks and dirt? And there's a lot of weight.
I might refer to the deputy city engineer on this, but as part of the conditions of approval, they would have to have a dust control, traffic control plan, and identify where their construction and grading, the routes are going to be for this development. And I estimate that they will be constructing along Kirby. There will be construction in there. There will be trucks that will need to utilize that for the construction of this. And then also, I want to mention that in addition to, the construction on site, the applicant's required to provide their right-of-way improvements on Kirby Street. So they're going to redo Kirby Street on the along the front edge of the property to include, new curb gutter, sidewalk, and bike lanes.
Okay, good.
Yeah, and so as part of that, the half width has to be improved. So impacts to Kirby would be fixed as part of this project. So there would be improvements. Sorry, and then I wanted to address one question from Commissioner Papp, but I'll let anybody else have. Should I go? Oh,
I do have one question. There's a tree. Quite a large one, and it's been there forever and a day. What are we doing with it? Is it going away?
is that the one that's kind of near there's like a big
The only
carve
tree.
out?
you
Yeah.
have.
Unfortunately, that area,
Busy.
yeah, and that the number of trees that we are planting on site will be large, and that will have to be removed.
Okay.
And then Commissioner Papp, I think you had a question about CEQA. I can address a little bit of it, but I have experts much better than I am to address the same question. As far as your question on the mitigation, so the general plan and general plan EIR have policies that specifically require mitigation for certain elements of like biological, cultural, and areas that we're implementing. So those are the mitigation measures are simply fulfilling what the general plan is requiring. And in the CEQA guidelines, there is provision for allowing, as long as there's mitigation that's presented, the applicant is not denying or rejecting them, or the city is not fulfilling them, that these are allowed under the provision for the addendum. Happy to turn it over to your CEQA consultant that reviewed the document, or other CEQA experts that are, again, much more experienced than I am.
Okay, thank you. While you're here, I do have one other question for you. I noticed during your presentation, there was a truck trip map that showed approximately 85% of the truck trips coming easterly, I guess, a little in east-west on Florida Avenue, and 15% coming from Sanderson/Lamb Canyon, but 0% of trips either coming to or coming from or going towards Dominigoni Parkway, Newport Road. Is there any reason to believe that there would be 0 truck trips emanating from this facility southerly on Highway 79?
Primarily because the port is the largest area that's receiving where the merchandise is coming from. So that's the fastest route to get there. So it doesn't seem likely that they would use a different route. That would be, and if it is, it's infinitesimal or not significant number. So we want to make sure that we load it up, an area, and make sure that the streets perform, that the intersections would not fail, and that we could have the improvements really identified for the critical mass of the traffic of the project. So that's why, but that was used.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Mr. Hernandez, are there any public comments?
I did not receive any comments, but I do have two request to speak forms from Ty Newland and Craig Heaps.
Okay.
Did you want to come up to the lectern and speak?
Excuse me, Chairman. I think we had a CEQA expert that was going to address it.
Want to talk to the CEQA specialist?
I'd like to hear what they have to say.
Oh, okay. Before we have the public, we're gonna go back to the CEQA specialist so that Vice Chair Papp can have his questions answered.
Good evening. My name is Kanya Dobreva, and I'm with EPD Solutions. We help prepare the document. And so I'd be happy to answer your questions. And then also the city's CEQA consultant who peer reviewed the document is here as well. So I thought I'd take a stab at answering, and then he can jump in and tell me if I'm wrong.
I'll just say, I think, no secret where I work. I work as a city planner for the city of Banning. We've had similar projects like this come through Banning. There was one, that was a very controversial project. It's currently in litigation, so I can't go into a lot of details on it. However, the initial, approval for that project was an addendum to the originally approved environmental impact report, which has been challenged under litigation, even though this particular project had no additional new mitigation. It was strictly clarification. So I just am a firm believer that leaving this open where you're bringing new information in to the addendum for the previously adopted environmental impact report, it may very well be proper, but just from a practical standpoint, a risk management standpoint, if you will, I do believe it opens up the project for risk of further evaluation or challenge, which could then lengthen the time period in which the project approvals might be able to move forward. So I just want to make sure we're on ironclad solid ground with our CEQA analysis.
Yes, so that is a point well taken. And certainly any development these days, even in a situation like at your city where there was nothing improper, that litigation is still always a possibility for any project. So that point is well taken. To answer your question further as to whether the addendum is appropriate, you brought up new information, right? That there's new information and that now there's mitigation measures. The CEQA guidelines that allow for an addendum specifically say, will it have one or more significant effects not discussed in the previous EIR? And in this case, the areas in which we added mitigation measures were in biology and cultural and paleo, which is again related to cultural. And those were all areas in which the EIR for the city's general plan said, hey, listen, we're gonna have biological impacts. And when you're doing a development, analyze it, prevent, avoid any biological impacts. And when you implement these policies that we outline, we're not going to have any impacts. Likewise, for cultural, they said, we're going to have archaeological, we're going to have paleontological impacts. Analyze it. If you find something, even during construction, the policy says, go ahead and make sure that you salvage it and you have somebody monitoring. And when you implement these policies, we're not going to have significant impacts. So we're doing an addendum to the EIR going from a sort of a square to an actual project on the ground. And so we're making a minor change to the EIR via the addendum to take those policies and make sure that they're actually implementable mitigation measures. So what the prior EIR clearly discussed as a potential impact and identified ways to mitigate, they did it through identifying it in a policy, and we're strengthening it by identifying it. And we're considering that to be a minor change because it's not a new impact that wasn't discussed. It's just the mitigation measures weren't clear because they were using policies as opposed to mitigation measures. We could have easily done this as conditions of approval. We just felt that this was stronger for the city to show. And the addendum very clearly said on page XX, we looked at this impact. So we're making it clear that we're complying with that component. The second piece is there are two pieces to the section that allows addendums that says what would be sort of improper new information. And one of them is mitigation measures found not to be feasible, but now are in fact feasible that would reduce impact, but the project proponent declines to adopt the mitigation measures. And likewise, are there new mitigation measures that are significantly different that would substantially reduce impact, but the applicant declines to implement them? that leaves room, and that's a school of thought, right? So one school of thought is if you have any new mitigation measure, forget it, you can't do an addendum. But the guidelines clearly open that possibility that you can have new mitigation measures as long as it's not a new significant impact that wasn't previously discussed and the applicant isn't declining. So this is something that we've implemented in other jurisdictions, and we're very confident that this approach is solid and defensible.
Very much for that clarification. I appreciate the explanation.
Thank you. You want to hear from the city at all, or? No. Okay, now we'll go ahead and public comments. Will you please state your name?
My name is Craig Heaps with West Coast Entitlement. Quickly, first of all, good evening, Chairman Beamsdorfer, Vice Chair Papp, Commissioners Hill, Ocho, and Clark, much easier names. And Vice Chair Papp, I knew you for somewhere, I just didn't know exactly where, so Banning, okay. Quickly, let me speak from a personal level first. First of all, great presentation. I'm sure everybody's stunned by it because usually things aren't that concise and that complete. So that was great. I am a Hemet resident. So speaking as a resident, I'm excited by the project. I'm excited to see that there's going to be job growth, that people can start working here instead of driving to Paris or, my office is in Calamasa. So every morning at 6 o'clock, I'm on the road going through up Sanderson and going through to go up to Calamasa and Yucaipa, and a lot of my projects are up that way. So excited by that, excited by the quality of the project. Just in looking at it, I know I've been doing land development for 20 years, so I know when I see a quality project, this one's quality. They take a lot of time and effort to go through it. So as a resident, I think it's great. I support it. The other reason I'm here is professionally, I am the aforementioned representative for the landowner to the west. So they're right. We kind of came in late in the game. I have Premier Developing Services has bought the Sanderson Square property and is working on some other properties in the area. We have spent some time with Jeremy and his team, and also with Monique and with Noah this morning, and come up with a solution to make sure Whittier happens. That based on the property that we have one property we have, one property we're in the process of buying, both the front on Sanderson. We're going to make sure that we provide that access to get there so that they have that during construction. They can design their storm drain and vacate the other road, which doesn't make as much sense as Whittier Avenue. So I just wanted to verify what he said. We are very much behind that and very much moving forward with it and teaming up. I mean, whatever we develop there, we plan on making sure we work together with them to cooperate and make sure we're all on the same page. So other than that, that's it. My property owner that I am doing the work for fully supports the project. We fully support it, and we think it's a great project. So, okay, thank you.
Thank you for your support. Can you please state your name?
Ty Newland. I'm the managing principal of Newland Capital Group. I want to just thank the commission. Thank you for your time, and thank you for listening to the presentations today and the questions. I'll start by just saying, as it relates to the tenant for this building, I have a phenomenal relationship with them. I've been fortunate enough to do a big project for them in the Northeast, and I can talk to their quality and the fact that they're a great employer. Talking to some of their employees and their other operations, they speak very highly of them. I know for a fact that their retention rate's around 93%, which is very, very high for this type of business. And I think that just goes to show how quality of a potential tenant you're getting in this community. And they are also somebody who focuses heavily in the community as well. They want to put their employees in a position where they can own their own homes, really live the American dream, and they treat them very, very, very fairly, I would say. And I just want to make sure you guys are fully aware of that. I also think, and I'm totally biased here, but I think this is a higher and better use for the site. You know, as an owner of the property, we've had to deal with a lot of, you know, homelessness and, you know, complaints and drug use, and have had to call the police out a number of times. And, you know, I think, you know, if we can get something built here, I think it'll really benefit the community. In closing, I just want to say, you know, it's been a long ride. You know, we've been working on this since 2021, late 2021, but, you know, staff is stuck in there with us. It's been great to work with them. You know, as you've heard tonight, you know, we've assembled a top tier team who's looked at this project from every angle and analyzed and overanalyzed, and making sure they're putting forward the best project that, you know, can benefit the community and address any concerns. So I want to applaud both the staff and my team in terms of working together to put something forward that I thought was really strong. So that's all. I don't want to take too much more of your time, but I appreciate it.
All right, thank you for your support. And with that, there are no comments, I believe, Ms. Hernandez.
No comments were received.
Okay, thank you very much. And any discussion? If not, obtain a motion
We need to close.
to close the, I'm sorry, I gotta close the public hearing. I gotta get used to that. Okay, with the public hearing closed, any discussions, or can I ask for a motion?
Well, before we make a motion, I think we would like to add the condition 72 modified to include Whittier. Is that correct? For the applicant?
That is correct. So let me read into the record, and if I make a mistake, I will call upon our deputy, our deputy director. So if I understand correctly, as identified in condition number 72B, subsection I, the applicant may utilize the existing right-of-way of Whittier Avenue. And then we would also include a separate subsection. Then I'll have Jolene clarify if that's correct.
So for condition 72, I think the clarification is just that Whittier would be constructed 44 feet from curb to curb, and shall include asphalt only. I think that's the clarification that they wanted, because that's how it's specified for Olympia.
And then if I could just clarify, would we also include, so the applicant may utilize the existing right-of-way within Olympia, but in addition, would incorporate, would allow for the construction of Whittier Avenue, as described by the Deputy Director of Public Works.
Including asphalt only, with the curb, gutter, sidewalk, and right-of-way landscaping being developed at a later date by Jason.
But be completed by, before, and to be completed before certificate occupancy, correct?
Right.
That's correct.
One quick question for you since you're here. I thought the request for the modification to the condition was that it would either be Olympic or Whittier to be constructed to that configuration. Is that what the request was, for one or the other?
Yeah, and it does clarify that they can use the existing right-of-way within Olympia, but it was just a specification that only the asphalt would be required along Whittier.
Thank you.
All right. I'm going to make a motion to adopt Planning Commission Resolution Attachment Number 1, Conditional Use Permit 22-002 and Variance 23-003, Exhibit 1BA through D, and Exhibit 1CA through C, subject to the conditions of approval as provided in Exhibit 1A, and 2, direct staff to file a notification of determination of Riverside County, and 3, the condition 72B.I be modified to include Whittier Avenue.
We have a second?
I second it.
Mine is not working properly.
We do a reset?
Why just roll call?
No, it's not registering properly.
I'll reset the voting machine. Can you please vote again?
There we go.
Mine's not registering properly.
The voting machine, please vote again.
And that passes 5-0. Congratulations. I'm looking forward to it. I can take a couple of years, but the city definitely needs something like this here and is a great job builder. So we're excited to have you guys on board.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you for putting up with all of our tough questions. We appreciate it.
Okay. Item 7A, city attorney reports.
Nothing to report. Thank you.
Okay. And moving on to item 7B, community development reports. Director Monique.
I have nothing to report. Thank you.
Item 7C, future agenda items. Director Monique.
Future agenda items coming before the Planning Commission include a conditional use permit for Freddy's Restaurant, a site development review for JD Fields Warehouse and Office Development. Also, the commission will be reviewing in the near future, either the December or the January commission meeting, the safety element and the environmental justice element. This
Not
concludes-
Miguel's yet. I'm sorry.
No Miguel's.
All right. And item 7D, planning commissioner reports. Director Monique.
Commissioner Clark,
Nothing. Thank you.
Commissioner Ochoa,
Nothing to report.
Commissioner Hill,
Nothing to report.
Vice Chair Pap.
Nothing to report. I was just curious if staff had an opportunity to review the materials I sent via email regarding the historical property on Florida Avenue that is a subject of a potential cannabis project under the County of Riverside's jurisdiction.
Yes, Commissioner, Vice Chair Pap, yes, the city is looking into that. We've also wanted to do a little research on that to obtain information from the county on what the current status is of that property. We did find another property that is also under consideration for cannabis in the county. So I just wanted to clarify that that is the correct address, but we are looking into that and as well as the historic status of the property.
Yes, let me just double check the address here. Sorry, I'm having a difficult time finding it now. I believe it's in the 4000 block of East Florida Avenue. The site had previously been used as a Service Pro not necessarily not carpet cleaning, but restoration. Yes.
Is it known as the old Wilson House?
Yes.
Interesting. Okay.
We are looking into that.
Thank you for that. That's all I have.
And the only thing I have to report is I believe this Saturday is our skate park's grand opening. It was postponed, but I believe it's this Saturday. So anybody that knows any kids that like skateboarding, the grand opening is this Saturday. Something else to bring up possibly for maybe city council to listen in on, but I know with the Downtown Pacific plan, I would love to see it rewritten in a way to where the planning commission has involvement with projects that are going on in downtown historical, because I know as it is written that it is planning commission is not necessarily needed. And looking at the aftermath of everything with downtown, I just would like to, maybe if the city council hears, possibly relook into the Downtown Pacific plan and have it rewritten to where planning commission is more engaged and more involved in these projects. Other than that, nothing else to report.
Yeah.
Is that in the redevelopment area, that downtown Is there a specific
The
redevelopment?
downtown, I believe downtown Pacific plan is just.
Yes, there is a
territory.
specific plan and it's marked by districts. And it has a series of specific criteria of either commercial mixed use or residential, including the Hemet Stock Farm, which also would have its own component to the downtown specific plan. There are requirements for planning commission review of projects in the downtown. I know there's been some discussion about certain projects that did not require because of the thresholds that are identified in the downtown specific plan. And I may be I'll verify that and I'll double check the thresholds, but I believe it's anything less than 2,500 square feet addition can be reviewed through a development administrative hearing process. However, staff will look into it further. What I'm hearing is that the commission's interest is also, looking at the historical component and would like to be informed of development in the downtown.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Jacob, are you talking about maybe a joint working session with?
I think
Commis-
that would be good in a way.
Planning
or-
commission
I mean, I'll leave that up to council to decide on that, if they want to do a work session with
Okay,
planning and council, but I mean, the way it is written, it's just, things are not looking great down there, and I just want to change that and be more engaged and have our saying and our words, because there are several projects that are being
Mhm.
windows and expansions, and it just, all that just hasn't come through here. And in being 3 years on the
Agreed.
commission, not one item has come to us. And, so that's just.
I
that's my
agree
report.
with you. I think that's a good approach. Something different.
Something. Anyway, I have nothing else to report. And with that, if there is nothing else, we will adjourn this meeting until December 19, 2023 at 6 p.m.